Hi, gorgeous beings of love and light. My name is Melissa. I am a human design practitioner and consciousness coach. I'm super stoked that you're joining me today. And today I would like to dive I don't know why I just said that with like an accent, dive into a topic that I too have experienced firsthand, which is consciousness and ego traps, as well as the risk of soul harvesting traps. Now, my intention for making this video is to perhaps save you guys some time experiencing these pitfalls or obstacles along the way that are purposely set up and in place to distract you from your journey to light. I'm very thankful for some of my good friends that have stuck by me throughout my awakening journey and listened to some of my shenanigans and ramblings, because the fact is, we all should be questioning our reality. And discernment and trusting our intuition and building and strengthening that it takes practice. Many of us are not trained to listen to our gut or our guiding power. If you're like me, I was very much like atheist. I don't have any beliefs. I always wished I did, but I just could not identify with religion, and not necessarily like being opposed to it, it just was not for me. It just didn't click. And that was lonely, because that faith in what is guiding you. So thankfully for some of these friends, they have lovingly given me a kick in the butt out of some of these rabbit holes. And as I always say, I do encourage you guys to explore it and question things and check things out, but do so with a mindful approach. When we get too bombarded with all these messages, it creates fear, and that's sort of working against, the whole purpose of this awakening journey. So yes, we do need to discover. No, it does not need to be excessive. And when we start to realize that our mental health is taking a toll and we're becoming paranoid because we don't even know what is real and what is fake anymore, that's when it's time to kind of pull the plug and just maybe recuperate and reflect, do some journaling, talk to people and integrate it, because we don't want to bypass the darkness and just pretend like there's only light. Of course, light can't exist without darkness. Yet, at the same time, walking the middle ground is kind of what the overall goal is here, and that's how we avoid further traps down the line. Because once we start over-identifying with any concepts, people, groups, labels, it's ironic in a way. Not in a judgmental place, but, as we become awake, the whole guiding purposes is like not to be judgmental, not to be, black and white thinking, polarity, duality. Yet we kind of put ourselves in a pedestal almost by judging the people who aren't yet awake, those that are still asleep. And we've been there ourselves, right? So this is where the integration comes in, this is where the shadow work comes in, this is where the ego programming needs to come out, or come into balance, get into check. So anyway, without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so ego traps, what are they? The ego is a very healthy and important part of us, and as we're younger, it rules our world, basically, and as we get older, the weight it carries is not relative to our role in the world as an adult. We don't need to be labeling ourselves all these things to be, to feel whole. It is basically an identity, and it is basically the I, right? The I am, the universe revolves around me, and anything that is different and foreign and scary, and like, even if it's positive change that requires, diving into the unknown, it's like, nope, not gonna go there. I would rather stick right here, right now, and just like play it safe. And that's what keeps us from making true progress, because we start to self-sabotage along the way. We start to chicken out when things are new and frightening, right? We're basically trying to unlearn everything we've been taught our whole life. So like, that's not a small task. And be gentle with yourself. With the ego traps, one of the first ones, I guess, would fall into the starseed category, and I too identify as a starseed. I've had my birth chart analyzed by an astrologer, and it's awesome to find out your star origins, because you start to understand like certain traits that you have within yourself. Things that are like really weird quirks and pet peeves and just like little knickknacks that just make you you. you have a reason. You have a reason to like explain it. Like it makes sense. Like, oh, finally, like now it's valid, right? All these times we think something's wrong with us when it's not. And but the difference is when we start to identify as a starseed as like the chosen ones, or like, you know, more important or more special or more woke than anybody else, without kind of understanding that two truths can be true at the same time and simultaneously exist. It doesn't have to be like mutually exclusive, right? We can say yes and rather than yes but to people who maybe have different views. And I think at the end of the day, the end goal here is just to find the middle ground and also use input from other people, oppose each other, and make it a negative thing, but kind of build on it. Like taking a piece, oh yeah, you're right, like take that, and oh, good point, here, I was wrong with that. But we can't do that if we're too, we over-identify, we cling on to those things that we're stating. And it's a hard task, first of all, to like make a statement about something, whether you're posting on Facebook or having a conversation with your friends, and then later find out more information, right, that requires you to change your stance. No one wants to be that guy that's like, well, shit, I was wrong. But how many times have we clung onto it, I don't know if that's a word, but, you know, held onto it so rough that we start to become irrational trying to, like, defend our first claim just because we don't want to retract it. And it's uncomfortable, yes. But moving forward, like, even on my TikTok, one of my videos, and this isn't about clout or like views or anything, it was literally just out of frustration that I took to TikTok because none of my messages and like posts were going through to anybody on my social networks. And so I tried a different avenue and then it blew up. But I accidentally red-pilled a very big number of people, and a lot of them were panicked by what I was saying because they had no context. And instead of being like, well, you know what, you need to do your research and, you know, time to bring yourself up to speed if you're not aware, blah, 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 like, I had to be like, you know what, guys, like, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. And I took some time and put together resources to help with that. And not necessarily take it back because I still think those things are true, but acknowledge when people are calling you out on something, shift your perspective, pivot, and people are actually very receptive and very thankful when you're like, oh shit, yeah, you're right, guys, like, it's not a big deal. But for some reason, like, a little voice up here is telling us, like, oh no, oh no, we have to be right. So, everything in tidbits. So yeah, the starseed thing is cool, but again, we are multidimensional beings. We're capable of accessing all of the dimensions, more or less. We don't belong to one group where it's like just that exclusively. Many of us have guides that are a combination of animals, the angelic realm, our, you know, passed away family members, ancestors, galactic federation, like it can go on and on. We have, it's a team for a reason, right? So we don't need to be like, I'm an Arcturian, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm here to do. Like, our mission is always evolving. And as infinite beings, we're also going to be constantly evolving. And there's some days that I feel very, like, information-driven. There's other days when I feel very heart-driven. And that's okay. It doesn't have to define you, but it can guide you, is what I'm trying to say. So another one is the conspiracy route. And I got stuck in here hard. Like, in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I really got stuck in here hard. And you'll know, like, a good indicator of this, looking back in hindsight, it's actually quite funny and, like, slightly, not humiliating, but, like, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have had myself more in check, but, you know, every conversation I was having with a person, whether it was, like, about, like, small things like the weather, I was like, by the way, did you know 9/11 was an insider job? Like, and I was like, I sounded like a nutcase. Yes, because the conspiracies are, you know, out there. And that's okay. I still identify with some of them. But the fact that I was trying to tie it into every single conversation, like, I was paranoid. And that was not good for my well-being and my sanity because I was living in fear and worried about the world. And, you know, naturally this is going to be a very turbulent time for us. So when you go to explore the rabbit holes, do it. But use a buddy system. Have somebody to, like, yank you out of there when the time comes, when it's time to, like, check yourself and you've been in there too long. And just be mindful while you do it, you know. you know, whether it's documentaries or media or just even thought forms, remember, we have to cleanse our energetic bodies. Like, that is traumatic, and it will stick even if we start to shift and think about something else later on. So taking that self-care as well as integrating it. Anything that provokes a negative charge in us is instantly, that's a signal to do some shadow work. And whether it's the cabal you're doing the shadow work on, you know, we all have these like little parts of our personality that we tend to hide and sweep under the rug because they're not so pleasant or generally well accepted. But the further and further away we push our shadow, the more it's going to pop out like unexpectedly, being like, surprise, I'm here, and you know, it's a great time, and like it's a really bad time when it happens, right? Because it's like usually a catalyst for some sort of problem in your relationships or some sort of weird self-sabotaging behavior that you're doing, because again, you haven't made friends with it. And we can't only just see the light, we have to be able to accept and have compassion for ourselves and understand that there is a darker side of us that is selfish and cruel and whiny and a victim and whatever it is. But you gotta love it, and you gotta like make it yours, right? Own your shit. And it's not easy. It's not. Because anytime I even think about doing shadow work, my ego's like, nope, we're all done, we're finished, we're good to go. Like, don't bother, don't check, we're all good. Like, I promise. And then I'm like, yeah, okay. Now I really know we have some work to do. Anytime it's like just shutting it down. So being mindful of your own like mental patterns like that can be a huge clue on like where the work lies. So that's that. I guess some of the, I can't say misinformation because at the end of the day, I don't know, I can't predict the future, right? But some of the concepts in the spiritual realm, this transition to 5D, this, you know, being a starseed and having a galactic family and making contact with them, gets blown out of proportion, in my opinion. The spaceships are actually going to show up tomorrow and they're going to save us and bring us to 5D, and that's actually a different place than there, and we're all going to sing like peace and harmony on the way up, but I don't think it's going to happen that way, and from what I understand from some more well-known, you know, spiritual teachers, I truly don't think it's going to happen that way. We also need to avoid placing too much weight or hope into comforting ideas. Yes, we are going to be, this 5D Earth is integrating, we're not going anywhere new, but we are going to be living in a much more harmonious, peaceful, positive, loving, compassionate environment. And having a mindset that any one person, group, or concept is going to come and be our savior is dangerous, because again, we're giving up our power and making an external authority kind of something that we rely on, even though we're ridding ourselves of like relying on society and those social norms and everything else, but like it's the same thing, just in a different, and these are the like matrix traps where people are getting stuck in the 4D. 4D can be a combination of time, the astral realm. The problem is just when we don't pierce through it, and we're constantly there, when we're living in a fearful, paranoid state where we're questioning everything and also judging those that are not awake. That's all encompassing, I guess, more or less, in a general sense. So when some of these concepts, you know, are explained, like the 10 days of darkness, or making first contact with the extraterrestrials, do I believe in them? Absolutely. Do I think that many of us already have the capability? Yeah, we all do, but does it take practice? And is it like a ritual that we need to cherish, and we need to water our little seeds and, like, you know, just keep it up every day, and it should be something to look forward to. It shouldn't be work. It should be something that we want to do, because at the end of the day, like, we can lie to ourselves, but, like, do you think those guys are not smart enough to understand the difference between, like, us putting on face and, like, actually doing the work when it comes from our heart? No. It's nonsense. So, sadly enough, I don't think any spaceships are coming down to bring us back to wherever. Do your own research, make your own judgments, but these are just my reflections. So, one other thing I would like to share with you guys is the soul harvesting traps, which they go deep. the most obvious ones, because I think this is a more in-depth conversation for another episode or video, because I would like to include some other people to share their insight on this. Just as a rule of thumb, anything that looks too good or too easy to be true is likely going to be a little bit of a red flag there. I see many people on YouTube posting things like, this meditation is going to blast you into 5D, and warning, there's no going back from here, and you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait, gold mine. The thing is, when we go into a meditative state, as well as when we go into the dream state, where do you think we go when we sleep? The astral realm. And, our dreams keep us occupied, but we're not here. We're very susceptible and impressionable, and it's the same as consuming too much news, too much TV, too much, mainstream media. And it's funny because the newly awoken spiritual people, myself included, I've been here, I'm calling myself out here too, these are all some of my learnings, in hindsight, I guess, that I'm sharing, have been oh yeah, the general public, you guys are so silly because you watch TV, every day, and you know how much subliminal messaging is in there, how much they're programming you. But then they go and they don't protect themselves, and they go meditate and do these, blast yourself into 5D or awaken the pineal gland, meditations, and they're in a very susceptible state, because just like TV, that puts you in a trance state, same as meditation, and dreams is just another one. So I highly recommend doing a shield of choice. I tried to do the 12D shield. It's a 5-minute meditation before any time I meditate, and I do it twice daily, especially before encountering any people that their energy has a negative effect on me, let's just say. So this basically is a visualization that creates an energetic barrier around your auric field, which will naturally, until we learn to discern and become experts at psychic defense and, I guess, truth testing, the different feelings of good versus bad, not good versus bad, but higher and lower density beings. See, I still have to correct myself, because all of this, good, bad is it's still ingrained in my mind, and it's gonna take a while, but we just have to keep it up, right? So, yes, with that, when we go into these trance-like states, doing this beforehand until we can discern our own energy, and we'll become experts at knowing how to tell the difference, because the lower density beings might present themselves as light beings, as, good, loving beings, and we won't be able to tell the difference because we can just take their word for it, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi that I can't describe. There's an intangible difference, if that makes sense. So we can't always as well as the past life regressions. I posted on TikTok a while back because there was this trend going around where all these people were doing these past life regression meditations, which is awesome, explore it for sure, but just shield yourself beforehand. Because a lot of people were having really heavy pains, and then they started having very traumatic, violent, really, really violent flashbacks. And it might have been their past life, but still, having a shield won't hurt you in any way. It just will prevent unwanted things from intruding. That might be difficult to remove. So, be wary that it's not all just, love and light from here on out, but don't be afraid. Just one of the healers that really helped open the spiritual door for me, she told me in the beginning, she was just know thyself, you've got this, you have, we all, this is our knowing, right? It's inside, we just have to kind of dig it back out because we've suppressed it and forgotten it for the most part. So yeah, that's that. Let me know what you guys think, and also let me know if there are some examples that you would like to share. I'm sure the other people looking at the comments would love to hear, and myself included. I'd be curious to hear that, just because, this is going to be an infinite journey, but when we start looking at it like a evolutionary type of thing, where it's how good can it get, versus God, we got to get from here to there, and then once we're there, we're safe, and it's good, and it's all over. What's the fun in that, you know what I mean? Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. If you think that this might help somebody else, please do share this with a friend or family member. I've also included a handful of my favorite videos in the Rituals I Highly Recommend playlist, which you can see on my channel. It includes the 12D Shield, and it includes another hour-long video by Beyond the Veil, which is an awesome channel to follow. He talks about a lot of like raw consciousness and embracing our shadow side and being real, not just like butterflies and fairies. Love and light! So yeah, thank you for checking out my video. Talk to you guys soon.